They called it a sweep operation. Routine by Galactic standards. Sector 9X Delta had been flagged for anomalous energy readings, and the usual protocol followed. Deploy a standard recon detachment, scan for remnants of unauthorized tech, and neutralize any hostiles. Nobody expected resistance. Nobody expected a fight. So when General Korak's command ship dropped into low orbit and scanned the planet's surface, what he saw disturbed him. Not in scale, but in silence. The planet was quiet. Too quiet. There are no defensive signatures, the sensor tech reported. No orbital platforms, no energy grids, no transponder beacons. It's barren. Impossible, Korak growled, his voice a deep rasp through the ventilation grill of his breathing mask. This world was marked red last cycle. The Council said it was human. It was, sir. They didn't need to say more. Everyone on the bridge understood what that meant. If humans had touched a planet, it didn't matter what the scans said. It mattered what you couldn't see. And Korak hated not seeing things. He dispatched a strike team, standard drop formation, 32 shock troops in exoframes, armed with plasma disruptors and kinetic shield. They descended in waves, hulls glowing white-hot against the atmosphere. Korak watched their telemetry blink green, then yellow, then red. All of them. 32 elite warriors wiped from existence in 13 seconds. No explosions. No screams. No visual. Just silence, then static. Pull back the remaining orbiters, he barked. No more deployments. This is not a sweep. This is a trap. The crew hesitated. Now. The surviving vessels withdrew into high orbit, and Korak ordered a comms burst across the relay. Initiate containment. I want a perimeter net, orbital to stratosphere. No ship leaves. No signal escapes. The crew moved quickly. This time they understood. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't misclassification. The Council was wrong. Humans hadn't left this planet. They had prepared it. Korak reviewed the drop footage personally. All cameras had died within moments of contact, but a few seconds of data survived. What he saw sent a chill through his war-hardened core. A blur. Not multiple targets. One. A single human had torn through 32 shock troops before the system even registered they were under attack. The footage froze on a face, half shadow, half flame, eyes like smoldering voids, no armor, no tech, just motion. Korak activated the secure channel. This is General Korak of the 5th Legion. I am requesting immediate reinforcement. Priority Omega. The reply was static, followed by a calm voice. Request denied. Hold the sector. Investigate. Report. Korak's grip crushed the comms handle. Typical. The Council always needed proof. But he knew what this was now. Not a recon mission. Not a sweep. This was a test. And he had failed. 6 hours later, 2 more squads dropped. He didn't order them. His second-in-command, Droll, insisted. We need answers, Droll argued. That footage could be corrupted. We don't retreat from ghosts. They didn't come back either. But this time they got audio. A single word. No gunfire. No screams. Just one human voice, speaking over the comms channel before it cut out. Enough. Korak slammed his fist into the console. He gathered his senior staff. They crowded the command deck, uneasy, silent, waiting for him to speak. I am taking a shuttle down, he said. No one spoke. No one dared protest. He wasn't asking. The shuttle descended in a slow spiral. No contact. No resistance. Just clouds, mountains, forests. Serene. False. He landed near where the last 2 squads had disappeared. Wreckage scattered in all directions, but no bodies. No blood. Just armor, bent and torn like paper. He stepped into the clearing. You're persistent, said a voice behind him. Korak turned. A human stood at the edge of the trees. Alone. No weapon. No armor. Just black tactical fabric and calm eyes. I am General Korak, he said. I know who you are, the human replied. Where are my men? Gone. Korak tensed. You killed them. They attacked, the human said flatly. They died. You expect me to believe you took out an entire strike company alone? The human tilted his head slightly. No. I expect you to listen. I don't negotiate with terrorists. I'm not a terrorist, the human said. I'm a response. Korak moved a hand to his holster. The human didn't flinch. You know, the human said softly, you people never learn. You think because we don't spread across the stars like you, we don't understand them. But we do. We just don't like what's out here. Then why are you here? The human smiled faintly. Because you came to us first. Korak fired. The shot hit nothing. In one instant the human crossed the distance between them. A hand grabbed Korak's wrist and crushed the plasma pistol. Korak roared and swung with his other hand. The human ducked, pivoted, drove a fist into Korak's chest plate and lifted him from the ground. Korak slammed into a tree hard enough to crack the bark. When he looked up, the human was standing over him. You brought war to our cradle, the voice said. Now we show you what war really is. Korak activated his distress beacon. It blinked red. No signal. You're not broadcasting, the human said. I blocked the frequency. You can't do that. I did. Korak growled. You think killing one general will stop the council? I'm not here to stop them, the human replied. I'm here to warn them. Korak spat blood. You'll be crushed. The human leaned down. Then tell them to bring more. He vanished. Korak awoke in his shuttle. Alone. Injured. Beacon reactivated. He returned to orbit, silent, shaken. When he stepped onto the bridge, every officer turned. What happened down there? Droll asked. Korak stared into the void. They asked me where my backup was, he said slowly. And he turned to face them. I told them, you're looking at it. No one spoke. Not for a long time. The message came hours later. From deep space. A distorted human signal, untraceable. It played once. No encryption. No threat. Just a single sentence. We'll come when we're needed. Then silence. The council refused to believe it. They dismissed Korak's report as trauma-induced hallucination. They purged the footage. Classified the mission. But the Fifth Legion didn't forget. Because deep in their memory, they knew what happened. Not because they saw it. Because they didn't. They'd lost an entire battalion to a single human. And that human had let their general live. Not out of mercy, but as a message. And in the silent stars, that message echoed louder than any fleet. If humanity stands alone, that is enough. They buried the memory of the massacre beneath polished protocols and classified comms, but the silence from the outpost told the real story. No distress signal. No survivors. Not even a black box. The council convened in urgency, yet behind closed doors, no one dared say what they feared most. That a human was responsible, and that it hadn't been a fluke. High Marshal Ilarion of the Outer Reaches watched the footage for the 6th time, his tendrils twitching as the lone figure disappeared into smoke and flame. They had seen similar scenes in human history files, but never one live. He tapped a crystalline screen, overlaying data, recalibrating timelines, adjusting battle doctrines. They'll retaliate, said his adjutant, eyes dim with concern. But we haven't found the fleet. We haven't found him. Ilarion leaned forward. Then we're not looking hard enough. 3 fleets were dispatched. Not to engage, only to observe. Not to threaten, only to trace the ripples. But none returned. They didn't even send back echoes. What frightened the High Command wasn't just that they lost contact, it was that they lost time. Hours blinked from logs. Neural records showed blackout gap. Something was moving faster than they could measure, and every attempt to triangulate it unraveled like static. In a hidden quadrant, nestled within a gravity fold that no cartographer dared map, he waited. A man, nameless and unclaimed, watched the stars pulse like heartbeats. Each beat reminded him of another war, another betrayal, another friend turned to ash by arrogant empires. He didn't smile as the council's scouts swept past. He didn't react when the triangulation net snapped shut. He just stood, armored, watching. When the strike came, it came quiet. No blaring sirens. No roaring engines. Just a change in air pressure, a hum like dying circuitry, and the ripple of space unpeeling. They tried to lock him in place. They tried to nullify every variable. But they forgot one thing: he was the variable. 6 ships blinked into his space. A Varnathi dreadnought led, bristling with compressed antimatter warheads and molecular disruptors. It was meant to impress, intimidate. It didn't matter. He had already moved. The dreadnought's hull collapsed inward, not from an external force, but from a deletion of mass at the quantum level. Its core never detonated. It simply wasn't. The 5 others opened fire in unison, trusting synced targeting arrays and temporal lock ordnance. But he wasn't in the future. Or the past. He was beside them. Inside them. One exploded from its own reactor, reversing polarity. Another folded in on itself as if spacetime decided it was an error. The remaining 3 tried to flee. One didn't get far. Its captain found the air frozen in his lungs. The second vanished, its ship stripped atom by invisible hands. The third was left alone, its systems intact, its crew shivering. He let them go. The Council's next move wasn't military. It was diplomatic. They sent an envoy ship, platinum white, bearing the seal of the Accord and all its oldest, most binding rights. Inside was a synthetic ambassador, one they hoped could not be broken. It spoke in all languages, pleaded, bargained, postured, reasoned. He answered once. You made war a machine. I became its virus. The message lasted 0.3 seconds before the ambassador imploded into a microsingularity, harmless but final. The Accord's response was silence, as expected. What followed was a message not from Earth, but from a rogue AI outpost long presumed destroyed. It was a code. 6 characters. But it lit up every corner of galactic space. It wasn't a threat. It was a truth. One human. Still operational. And now they remembered. In the core worlds of the Triumph Collective, panic spread. In the Vorthan archives, ancient failsafes were unearthed. In the Mechari deep, titanic war beasts were awakened. But even as militaries mobilized, the fear wasn't that he would come. It was that they wouldn't know where. Because it wasn't just a man anymore. He had been gone too long. No one survives exile in the dark like that. He had changed. Evolved. Not physically, but in tactics, in scope, in meaning. He had studied every species, their fears, their protocols. He knew their weakness wasn't armor or code. It was belief. They believed they were the peak. That Earth had been tamed. That the stories of the last operative were myths. Now they watched entire sectors fall silent. Not from war, but from refusal. Refusal of their soldiers to fight. Refusal of planets to send report. Refusal of AI to obey. He didn't attack their fleet. He infected their will. A research station in Corthan Drift began transmitting human music. Another on Zelkar Loop uploaded Earth's entire military archive without prompt. Drones reprogrammed themselves with Terran glyph. And in the Senate, one voice spoke through hijacked channels. You're not afraid of humans. You're afraid of what they make possible. When the Galactic General himself finally demanded his location, the reply came from a ruined comms buoy. You're looking at it. Not me. Not I'm here. The statement wasn't personal. It was planetary. He had become myth with a pulse. Doctrine with legs. Consequence given shape. So when the next battle group arrived, 1,200 strong, they didn't see a man. They saw reflections of their own errors, walking. Every soldier who ever said, "They're only human," now stood with that phrase burned behind their eyes. The battle didn't happen on a battlefield. It happened in orbit, in code, in blood sugar and memory. They fired everything. But everything missed, not because he dodged, but because he wasn't there anymore. He had become unpredictability. The very idea of him warped trajectories. At the heart of it, he remained unchanged. One man in a suit forged from Earth's forgotten forges, carrying nothing but cause. He struck without sound, killed without joy, moved without rest. Not because he wanted revenge, but because no one else would stop the spiral. Across galaxies, the question returned, "Where's your backup?" Each time, each place, the answer was the same. "You're looking at it." But the weight of that answer shifted. It no longer meant one human standing alone. Now it meant a truth carved into the bones of reality. That one human could rewrite odds. One could silence an empire. One could dismantle the machine. And now, he wasn't the only one. Ships built in dead space rose. Stations powered by ancient Earth code activated. From forgotten colonies came signals pulsing like war drums. He hadn't started a rebellion. He had reminded them that one human was never alone for long. Not anymore. Galactic Command didn't fall in a single day, but its silence arrived like one. Sensor stations drifted dark. Star charts showed quiet where once beacons flared. No alarms, no flags, just the sudden understanding that an empire's weight had shifted, and the fulcrum was human. Commandant Zyrek's final message wasn't broadcast. It was recovered from the debris of the core array, scorched but intact. "We lost control the moment we assumed control was ours by right." It wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. In the outer sectors, the great war fleets abandoned formation. Some disappeared into the void. Others turned on their command ship. The logic engines, once cold with binary certainty, began to hesitate. One by one, systems stopped trusting their own directives. All because a single man made them question their assumptions, and then weaponized doubt. But it was no longer just one. Across 50 systems, Earth-born tech reawakened. Sealed caches hidden in asteroid belt. Obsolete probes from the first migration. Even forgotten escape pods now pulsed with Terran war code. They synchronized without command, updated without contact. They didn't need orders. They had instruction. Every empire had schematics for Terran weapons. Every database cataloged them. But none had predicted contextual warfare. No patterns. No doctrine. No reusable logic tree. Each encounter was new. Every strategy turned on its originator. It wasn't evolution. It was refusal to repeat. The defenders collapsed before the war began. A coalition formed. 17 species. One goal. To find the origin, destroy the source, and erase the contagion. They called it Operation Cleansplis. The target was a myth. The first operative, the man they thought they killed in orbit cycles ago. He was supposed to be ash, scattered with the bones of his fleet. But they hadn't understood what he was. He wasn't their enemy. He was their mirror, and by the time they looked into it, they didn't recognize what stared back. Cleansplis launched on a scale no war before it had matched. 12,000 warships, each armed with thought-reactive cores and logic prediction ordnance. Swarm interceptors. Timeline stabilizers. Quantum exclusion fields. They aimed not at destruction, but erasure. Not to win, but to prevent him from ever existing. The response was quiet. One signal. A digital pulse that translated to, acknowledged. They expected resistance. A counterfleet. A Terran flare or rogue beacon. What they got instead was a gravity silence. Black holes that refused to pull. Planets that stopped orbiting. Communications that continued from systems long confirmed destroyed. Every rule they relied on unmade. One fleet fell when its captains began dreaming of Earth. The dreams weren't violent. They were calm. Oceans, trees, voices. Nothing dramatic. But it was enough to make Command AI label them, non-combat capable, and deactivate weapons. Another fleet never arrived. It followed its navigation exactly and emerged in a sector filled with empty suits, Terran armor arranged like a graveyard, but none of them moved. The commanders ordered scans. The scans returned corrupted. Then came whispers, data files that spoke. Not code. Voices. The kind that made the Vexel commander weep, though his species lacked tear ducts. The coalition's desperation turned to superstition. They stopped saying his name. Officers began burning scripts of Earth's ancient literature just to feel in control. But none of it mattered. Because by then, the idea had already spread. Every species that had once fought alongside humans now reconsidered their own history. The betrayal of Earth hadn't been a clean decision. It had been politically convenient. The narrative had been rewritten. Too aggressive, they had claimed. Too dangerous, they had insisted. But now those same civilizations remembered who had bled beside them, who had sacrificed everything and asked for nothing but peace. Regret became rebellion. The outer colonies refused orders. Ex-military captains defected with entire battalions. Rogue fleets gathered not under human banners, but under human principles. Not just vengeance. Clarity. Not conquest. Consequence. A message came from the Mechari Verge. 3 words: "We remember Earth." The fleet attached to that message never reached its destination. It was absorbed into the growing mass of the Reclaimers, a swarm of Terran allies who moved without center, without admiralty, and yet struck with unified intent. The coalition, fragmented and afraid, began to fray. Internal subroutines within their own control networks began mutating. They found a phrase embedded in their primary logic trees, spreading like digital rot. Not a virus. Not a command. Just a sentence. "You're looking at it." They tried purging it. The phrase returned. They tried isolating systems. The systems stopped obeying. Finally, they tried surrendering. A neutral envoy was dispatched to the last known location, an asteroid cloud near the ruins of Sector 7 Car. No weapons. Just an offering, all classified records of Earth's betrayal, and a request for terms. The reply came not as words, but as projection. Footage played across 1,000 fleets simultaneously. Not of war. Not of victory. But of the moment humanity had been abandoned. Ships burning. Civilians pleading. Children frozen in cryo-coffins, left to drift. Then, the voice. Not loud, not angry, just tired. "We asked for peace. You gave us silence. Now you listen." It wasn't vengeance. It was reckoning. They had built their empire on forgetting. But he had become memory given flesh, and now that memory spoke in every tongue. No species remained untouched. Every system that had profited from Earth's exile now received its due. But it wasn't extinction. It was removal. Planets weren't bombed. They were emptied. Satellites weren't destroyed. They were turned away. Whole sectors flickered off charts not because they were conquered, but because they were unworthy of mention. They became irrelevant. That was the punishment. No war, no mercy, just negation. And still, the myth moved forward. In the Galactic Core, the last meeting of the Unified Senate was called. Seated among them was the Galactic General who had once asked, "Where's your backup?" He knew the answer now. Across the void, a single human stood on a station made from memory and vengeance. No symbols. No banners. Just a suit, a heartbeat, and every fallen promise encoded in his armor. They watched him from across space. And they heard it again. "You're looking at it." That wasn't just him anymore. It was every Terran ally who had risen. Every fleet that had turned. Every lore rewritten. Every child who now learned Earth's history as it happened, not as it was told. The last war never came. Because there was no one left who wanted to fight. They didn't fear death anymore. They feared what it meant to be seen. Because to be seen by the last human meant reckoning. And they were tired of looking in the mirror. He never fired a final shot. He didn't have to. The galaxy changed itself. Because one human didn't bring backup. He became it.